And it's always just given me this sure knowledge that there is life after this, that there is purpose. Clearly, he still remembered me as his grandson and had love for me.
Welcome to Prioritize Your Life, and welcome to a really weird moment for me.
Me.
Yeah, because the guy that's sitting over here is somebody that I deeply respect and deeply look up to. He's also one of my best friends in the world, and here I am talking with him on this thing.
And I am on the wrong side of the camera right now. I am usually on the other side.
Right.
And so it's a little weird for me,
That is weird.
too.
Yeah.
Because I do video production and usually help Wes with some of his videos and filmmaking, but from the opposite side of the camera.
Yeah, that is very different.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm on this side of the camera because I helped Wes shoot Scott Drummond's Experience, and was in the room and just, I'll be honest with you, when I was in the room, I was really preoccupied, and I kind of missed how special that experience was. I had headphones on, and I was like, oh, there's a little hum in the headphones. I don't know, and I was looking at camera angles, and oh, this is good, and I was so focused on the production that I didn't really focus on what Scott was saying. But after Wes finished the video and put it up, I watched it and just thought, oh, that is a really cool experience, and just, felt how special that was and how cool it was, and thought, Scott is really brave for sharing that with the world, and it's something that the world needs right now. And I was touched by it and thought that was so cool. But lately, the video has really kind of been blowing up, and I've been watching that happen, and I've been reading a lot of the comments because, like we said, we're really good friends, and so I'm always interested in projects that Wes is doing, and so it's been fun to watch all of the attention that video has gotten, but even more fun to see how it's touched people's lives and the difference that it's made, and how many people have just said how much they needed to hear that message and the comfort and peace that it's brought to people. And maybe not everyone, but overwhelmingly the reception has been very positive, and so it's been really cool to see. When it started getting really big, I said, Wes, you got to get more stuff up on your channel, like right away. And he said, yeah, I'm working on it. I actually have a couple other people that I'm talking to, and I'm going to schedule, and I want to put more stuff out there. And then I thought about it for a little bit, and I realized that I have an experience that might fit very well with the message of prioritize your life. And I told him, I said, hey, I can do a video if you want. And I think he just kind of giggled, and he thought that I was joking because we joke a lot.
Yeah, I did think you were joking.
And so I had to say, this was actually happening over Slack. We were chatting, and I said, no, really, I have an experience that I don't think I've shared with anybody outside of my family. Very few people know about it. It's a very special experience to me. And so even someone who's as close a friend to me as Wes, I had never shared it with him. But seeing how much good the video has done, I actually realized that maybe by not sharing, I was being a little bit selfish. And I just thought, if Scott can be that brave and courageous and share his experience and help so many people, maybe I should share my experience. And I don't think mine is quite as dramatic as Scott's. I didn't die and go to the other side, but it was very special to me and has meant a lot in my life, and has been something I've been able to draw on in hard times in my life. And I'll admit there have been times when I maybe forget and I don't live exactly the way that I should for someone who's experienced something like that. But in times when I do need a source of strength, I often go back to this experience and draw strength from it. And I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself because I haven't actually shared the experience. So I'll go from there. After my freshman year of college, I decided to take a break from college and go and serve as a missionary. And I went to Brazil, and I learned to speak Portuguese. While I was down there, I was in the São Paulo area of Brazil, And they have a weather phenomenon that I haven't seen anywhere else I've been. They call it garoa. And what it is a certain time of the year, they get these mists. It's not quite rain, but it's not really fog. It's just a really heavy mist. Ooh. And you walk out the door, and it doesn't matter if you're wearing an umbrella or what, you're just instantly wet. It's just like the air is full of water. And it usually happens when it's a little bit colder. It doesn't ever get super duper cold in São Paulo, but in the winter, it gets a little colder, and the humidity makes it feel even colder. But as a younger, dumber person, maybe, I felt a little invincible. And so we would just go out and work no matter what. And so even when this garoa was out in the air, we would go out and do our thing and, go and do service wherever we could, help people, teach people about Jesus. We were out doing our thing. And so after several days of being out in this mist and just being wet and kind of cold all day, I got really sick. And I had to stay home, and I was running a fever. I developed a really bad cough, and I just kept getting worse and worse. And so finally, I decided to go to a public health clinic. They call it a posto de saúde in Brazil. And it's not the greatest place to go when you're sick. It's sort of like an Instacare, but it's free for everyone. And so when I got there, there's just a ton of people. I mean, it was the time of year when everybody's sick anyway because this garoa and the weather's kind of cold and humid, and it's where all of the poorer people go when they have any health problems. And so I went there, and I felt miserable, and the wait was forever. I was in this health clinic for it must have been 6 or 7 hours waiting to see a doctor, and I'm surrounded by all these people who are coughing and sound terrible, and sometimes people come in bleeding, and even they were waiting. I'm like, oh man, if that guy with the bloody arm has to wait 2 hours, I'm gonna never get to see the doctor. Anyway, finally, after all this waiting, I go in to see a doctor, and I start to tell him what's wrong. And really, before I can even finish explaining all of my symptoms, he says, yep, sounds like you've got the flu. And he writes out a prescription. He says, here's this prescription. You can go over to this part of the building and wait in line, and they'll fill your prescription. And I was like, what? That's it? Like, I didn't even finish. Like, you didn't. I'm used to, going to the hospital or the doctor here in the U.S. and, no matter what you're there for, you could be there for a checkup, and they're still going to, take your vitals. They're going to listen to your heart. They're going to probably shine a light in your eyes and in your ear. And this guy, before I even... Hello. Yeah, you got the flu. Here's your prescription. And I was just like, oh, wow. And so I went to the line that everybody was waiting to fill their prescriptions. And this was a long line, too. And I felt terrible. I was like, I don't even, I'd fallen asleep several times in the waiting room. Just was running a fever, felt awful. I was like, I do not want to wait in this line. And I look at the prescription, and I spoke Portuguese, but when it came to prescriptions, I didn't really know what things were. And so I was trying to figure out what it was that he had prescribed me. And I started asking other people in line, and I was like, hey, what is this? And they were trying to explain to me in Portuguese what it was. And they're like, yeah, it's the same prescription that I got. And I was like, oh, really? And what do you have? And anyway, come to find out, I started going up and down the line. Everybody had the same prescription. And basically, after talking to a bunch of people, I figured out it was just a prescription for an acetaminophen injection. It was just a really strong dose of Tylenol was what everybody was getting. Everybody in the line was just waiting to go get their Tylenol shot. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not waiting in this line.
6 hours for that?
I waited for 6 hours for that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not waiting in this line. So I left and I went home. I think I stopped at the pharmacy and bought some Tylenol and took some Tylenol. And a couple days later, I just was still miserable. I felt awful. Cough had not gotten where I was having a hard time breathing. And so I finally went to a private doctor, got me in right away, and I started telling him, and he got out a stethoscope and started listening to my breathing, and he said, oh, that does not sound good. And he ordered some x-rays and got me into, back he had in his office, the x-ray machine, got me back and got the x-rays and looked at it, and he says, oh yeah, you have pneumonia in both lungs. And so he got me some actual good prescriptions and things like that, and sent me home. And I still was just miserable. And I remember at one point, I was running a really high fever. That's one of the things he told me. He said, I want you to take your temperature really regularly. And if you get up above this number, you need to call me and we might need to get you into the hospital. So you got to take your temperature, every hour. And I need to back up a little bit. I forgot. It's been so long. I'm telling the story slightly out of order, and I didn't really think to rehearse this. A couple weeks before all of this had happened, I actually got a message that I needed to call home. And I called home and I talked to my parents, and I found out that my grandfather had just passed away. And it was sad, but he was old and had lived a good life. And so I, kind of grieved and mourned for my grandfather in my own way. Anyway, I found myself with this pneumonia in the middle of these high fevers, and I don't know if I was delirious, if I was asleep and dreaming. I'm not really sure. I can't say. But at some point, my grandfather showed up, dressed all in white, and came to me, and he put his hands on me, and he said a prayer over me and blessed me that I would feel better, that I would heal and get better. And he told me that he was okay and that everything was all right. Sorry, like I said, I've never told this story to very many people, so I still get emotional. And then he left. And within a few hours of that, I came out of the fever and finally started feeling better. And it still took me a couple days, but that was the beginning of my recovery. And that was when I stopped feeling so miserable, was within a few hours of this special visit from my grandfather. And whether that visit happened in a dream or whether he really came to me and I was just a little delirious and so my memory is messed up, I don't know. And it doesn't matter to me, because either he came to me in a dream and told me that everything was okay, or he really came to me and ministered to me as an angel from the other side. And I just remember feeling this overwhelming warmth. And I know that he is still out there, that even though he passed from this world, he goes on and still exists. And not just him, but everyone. And it's always just given me this sure knowledge that there is life after this, that there is purpose. Clearly, he still remembered me as his grandson and had love for me. And so I know that there are still some sort of relationships that exist past this life. And so when things get a little tough, when life feels a little crazy, when I feel stressed and overwhelmed, I remember that there's more than just this. Not to say that this life isn't important, but I know that we have a higher purpose. And when I think about prioritizing my life, I try to remember that experience that has always been a strength to me and my faith. And I just thought, if Scott can be brave enough to share something that's helped him, that I could maybe share this experience that's helped me, and hopefully it can help others. Anyway, that's it, man. I got better, and I was able to finish out my mission, and it was an amazing experience all around. But that was one that I hold dear, and it really has changed my life, and been a source of strength and peace to me.
Thank you, man. Man, when you said it just brought you this warmth, I felt that in that instant, and I was having to try really hard not to start crying myself. What's interesting, it's nowhere near as special. I actually had a very similar experience. My grandmother passed away. One night after she had passed away, I was pretty bummed. I loved her, and she was a beautiful, beautiful woman, is a beautiful woman. I had a dream that I was in the spot that was so familiar to me, which is riding in the back of their Buick. and my grandpa was driving, and my grandma was in the front seat, and I was sitting in the back, just like it always used to be as I was growing up when I would visit them in Colorado, listening to classical music. We're probably on our way to King Soopers where they were going to buy me a cookie. But this time it was clearly a dream, and my grandma turned around to me, and she looked at me, and she lovingly smiled, and she said, "I've been trying to talk to you, but you can't hear me." And then she just smiled and turned away, and that was the whole dream. But a similar thing in that way is just like it was a huge blessing, and it was like I was being told that like she's okay, she knows what you're doing, she loves you, she still exists, and it was a beautiful experience. Anyway, thanks, dude.
Yeah,
it was good to.
Also, why do all grandparents have to drive Buicks? When you're like, I was in the back of their Buick, I'm like, hey, I had memories of being in the back of my grandparents' Buick.
There's your assignment in the comments. Did you drive in a Buick with your grandparents? And if you had any dreams about them, we'll take those too. So yeah.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, man.
That's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah. Oh, yours. Thanks.
Good luck editing this one.
Yeah.